Hello, welcome to May 19th, 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily good life meditation. It's an exercise that I do every morning to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I gotta prop it up while I do this. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the challenges and the opportunities that I met. I go over the 8 objectives of my creed, outlined in my book. There goes some ducks. And I prepare for the coming day. So let's get started. But before I begin, let me say welcome to the many new subscribers to the channel. I'm glad you're here. By way of quick biography, I'm Kurt Bell. I'm a 61-year-old as of today. American man, retired for just about 5 months and a week, living here in Shizuoka, Japan, with my 60-year-old Japanese wife. We bought a home here, and now we're settling in. I do talk about, this is a journal video. This is not a Japan video. This is a video where I talk about my own life. I go over what happened in the last 24 hours. So it's all about me. So just to give you a heads up. So if you're in it for the Japan, then you might want to check out my other uploads. Not necessarily this one, my other postings. This is a journal video, like I said. I do talk about sensitive subjects here. Most notably, I talk every day about my own upcoming death. Not that it's going to happen necessarily right away, but it could. So I plan for it every day. So that seems to unsettle some people. So just a warning that I will talk about that. I'm not sick or anything like that, not that I'm aware of. But aren't we all in a way? We're all dying, right? I do also want to thank you for watching, and in particular thank my members on YouTube and my supporters on Patreon. I really do appreciate that. All right, so let's get into it. So, and I do read comments at the end, and I'll respond to comments at that time. So what I'm going to do now, I keep a little notebook with me all day long every day, and I write down significant things that are noteworthy with regards to incidents that happened where I was like, wow, I handled that well, or wow, I didn't handle that so well. You get the idea. I also make note of sea changes that are happening in life along the way. I like this with the book in the back. I was at the flea market yesterday and I saw a really antique little book holder. Maybe I'll pick one of those up next time, and when I'm doing these videos, just prop the book up there in the background. That might be a good idea, because the book is what this is all about, really. All right. So as for yesterday, the last 24 hours, my notes have 2 items. First is leaning into backseat driver. I'll explain what that is. And then the second note says a deepening peace. They may be related. So leaning into a backseat driver. If you follow these videos regularly, you may know that one of the things that irks me is when I'm driving and someone is backseat driving, which happens a lot here in Japan, because people assume that because I'm a foreigner and I don't know the area, that I don't know my way around. I lived here in this same community for over 10 years, and I drove for over 10 years in that time. I know this area very well. True, I'm stumbling a little bit since I started driving 5.5 months ago. I'm struggling with it, finding my way around a little bit, and with driving in general in Japan. But I'm getting better, much better. Even had one little fender bender accident with a fence, but I think that was actually a boon in a way, because it helped to propel me to the next level. I had to, in fact, that's worth of a note. I should have written that down. I've noticed that since I got the car back, we had to have the body shop fix it. Since I got the car back 3 days ago, my confidence in driving has returned. And I think it's because I kind of got back on the horse. And I'm feeling much better, more assertive in a positive way, not in a ridiculous way, but more assertive in saying I'm not going to fade away into a fearfulness of driving, but I'm going to push myself forward in a positive way, taking on, I'm struggling to get this out. What was happening before was I haven't changed what I'm doing. I'm still driving the same way. But after my accident, I was being piecemeal about it. I wasn't feeling confident. And I wasn't saying anything out loud, but I could feel myself being nervous and hesitant. I let that go. When I got the car back, I looked at the car and I said, okay, now I'm going to climb back into this thing and I'm going to assert myself as a driver and do the things I need to do, and I'm not going to worry about and be mealy-mouthed in my mind about it and, fretting internally. And that worked. So I guess that's why I should have had another note there, because I just noted that yesterday. That was interesting. But the thing is, in leaning into the backseat driver, that was really interesting. They won't see this, but my sister-in-law, Yoko, she's the one, she means well. She sits in the back when she goes around with us, and she'll, tell me which way to go. And her father does the same thing. Those are the two people that backseat drive me here. And they won't see this, so I think it's okay. And even if they do see this, Yoko and Dad, I appreciate your intention is good, and I do appreciate it. And I've tried a couple of things to address that, not in an assertive way, addressing it with them. I haven't said anything, and I won't say anything. I've tried to address it through my own, adjusting the way I react. And I think if you just saw it on the surface level, if you were very sensitive like my wife, she could tell that, it bothers me. But I don't think anyone else can. One way I know that is that they continue to do it. But yesterday was really interesting. I have been kind of prepping myself in the recent weeks, saying, when I'm with Yoko and when I'm with Dad, I'm going to switch my frame of mind from being one of, maybe today's the day that they'll stop backseat driving, which is not a very stoic way of looking at things. #nature. In my book, Going Alone, one of the principles is the principle of nature. And it does not nature like birds and bees. I'm talking about the nature of things, the way things are. #nature. It's the nature of my sister-in-law and my father-in-law to want to be helpful when I'm driving and to therefore backseat drive. #limits. The objective of recognizing true limits and true opportunity. Now, it is not within my scope of control to reach into their minds and cause them to not engage me in that way. However, it is within my scope of opportunity to adjust the way I react. #reason. I used reason to come up with a plan, and that plan was that I would adjust my frame of mind whenever I'm going into a driving situation where I'm driving and they're in the car, where I will say, okay, instead of, because I tend to use Waze and on my phone, the navigation app, instead of turning on Waze, I will turn on my engagement with my in-laws. If we're going somewhere and I know they know how to get there, I won't even turn the Waze app on. I'll simply turn to Yoko. Yoko speaks English really well. And I'll say, or I'll even say it in Japanese. I'll say, well, which way, can you please help me to get there? I know that this is inviting more. This is going to make it worse, right? But I'm moving in the direction of where I can control things. And that's what I did yesterday. And Yoko actually, and sometimes the ways that she describes actually aren't more efficient. I know that by my own experience, but they're the practice routes that she's used to. And yesterday was the first, and I've done this begrudgingly in the last couple of weeks. I've asked their help, or I haven't said anything, but when they start helping, I just lean into it, right? The one thing that's good about not having the Waze app up is if I've got the Waze app up and the Waze app is telling me to make a left turn up here, that would be the most efficient route, and they're telling me to go straight, it's a tension, right? It's a frustration because I want to follow the guidance of the Waze app, whereas sister-in-law is telling me to go straight, or Dad's telling me some ridiculous, utterly ridiculous direction that doesn't make any sense. But if I don't have the app on, I just put my own sense of internal compass aside. Say, oh, okay, great, we'll make a left turn here. And we just do it. what I'm saying is, it was one thing to come up with the idea, the theory of how I was going to address this. And I applied that theory for a couple of weeks. Didn't have much effect. But yesterday, suddenly it clicked. And yesterday, I was following Yoko's guidance gratefully to a place that I know how to get to. And there was no resentment, and I didn't feel upset at all, and I didn't feel like I was compromising her at all. I felt like we were just cooperating together to get there. Success. Again, hashtag nature, recognizing the nature of the people that I'm dealing with. Hashtag limits. I can't control that nature of my family members, but I can control the opportunities that I have to adjust myself. And hashtag reason, finding up a solution. And then hashtag temperance, or I'm sorry, well, it's not temperance, but fortitude. It's not really a principle, though it should be somewhere in there. Fortitude to carry on, to keep it up every day that we're driving together, and it worked. That was big. Now I think I can keep it up, so I think this will be permanent. The second item here was deepening peace. Now this is really interesting. The only thing that the antecedent, is that right? Antecedent, is that what happens before something? I know there's the precedent. It sounds like it should be precedent, but I'm pretty sure antecedent means happens before. I've started doing something in the last week that seems to be yielding some fruit. I do a lot. I'm very, very physical these days. I mean, I'm walking so much. My arthritis seems to have gone away completely. I'm sleeping sound through the night. I'm getting so much exercise, and now that the weather's getting warm, I'm getting lots of sun. I'm feeling really good, and so I added to that a new piece, which is laying flat on the tatami here in my Japanese room, my Japanese style room. It's not really a Japanese room, but I made it one. And listening to breathing videos on YouTube, and even some light meditation videos and yoga. And what's happening, and basically, and this wasn't intentional. I stopped drinking altogether, and it wasn't intentional. I just kind of got tired of the feeling that I would have after I'd have a beer at night. The next morning, I just didn't feel as good. So I've kind of reached a point that whatever the beer was, whatever pain, because it was pain, and during my working years, pain, like work was a pain. work caused a lot of stress and tension. Whatever an evening beer, whatever pain that was, is the word ameliorate? Is that the right word? Or whatever it mollified? Yeah, that's the word. Whatever pain the beer mollified, and I wouldn't have called it that. I would have said, this is just my relaxing time. But no, I was medicating myself with beer. Not a lot. I would never drink more than one, maybe on a rare occasions, 2 small cans, but very rare, mostly just 1 can of beer. And it was infrequent at that. Whatever it was that I was trying to deaden, I don't need to do that anymore because the pain isn't there anymore. And it was really work all along. I've told you guys this before. I've come to realize that so many of the issues that I was having in life in the last few years were all related to my job. The stress of my awful, fruitful job. It's what a tension that is, right? I mean, I made a very good living, and which made it really, really hard and very hard to ever escape from, right? It's like filling your pockets with gold on the Titanic. If you know the finding, like so you're on the Titanic and it's sinking, and you find yourself in one of the billionaires at the time suite, right? And you're like 3 levels down from the deck, and the ship's going down, and you've like stumbled across J.P. Morgan's suite or whoever, one of those millionaires at the time, billionaires now, and they happen to have their gold chest open. Now you've got 2 options, right? Yeah, you can run away to the deck above and hope to get on a lifeboat, or you can start filling your pockets with the gold that's about to go to the bottom of the sea, right? Well, you're filling your pockets with gold and not the price of your well-being as you're going down. That's what the last 5, 10 years of my 20, 30, 40 years of my life was like, trying to make gainful ends in a career, in a series of careers and jobs that were destroying me. And now that I've stopped doing that, I've retired, that is lifted. I've emerged onto the deck of the Titanic, and guess what? It's not sinking, or not sinking as fast as I thought it'd be. It's not the Titanic after all. It's the Queen Mary. it's docked at the harbor in Long Beach, and what the hell was I doing down in the engine room all this time? And I could have been up here on the sunlit deck. So anyway, the point is, with all of that happening, and with getting a lot more exercise, and starting to do a little light yoga, breathing exercises, eating really, really well, getting lots of exercise, and most importantly, the stress of work gone from life. Just one aside, last night Yumiko and I were coming home, and we were up the street here with the dogs. The night had fallen, and we were coming home, and it was bath time and then bed. Dinner, we'd already eaten dinner, and as we approached the house, it's Sunday night, today's Monday, she was walking ahead of me with Ollie, the black dog, and I kind of called ahead to her. I said, "Hey, Yumiko, do you feel it?" She, "What's that?" And I said, "Or not feel it. It's gone. The dread of Sunday night, for the anticipation of the coming work week. It's gone." Now, Yumiko is not one to hyperbole. I am. I will say, "Wow, it's gone. Yay, wow, it's gone." She will say, "Yes, yeah, I've noticed." And that she'll leave it at that. She doesn't go to any extreme. She won't say extreme celebration, nor extreme, hand-wringing in times of difficulty. She's very stoic in that capacity. Maybe I should say very Japanese. So I let it go. But with all of that happening, the second note here, getting finally to that deepening peace, there seems to be this very, very, I used to call it the peaceful, easy feeling, the PEF. Peaceful, easy feeling was something that was like, it would appear in moments here and there through the day, like sunlight, like a warm atmosphere that just happened once in a while. Now this deepening peace seems to be more pervasive throughout the day, throughout the night. A real boon, I think. Not a boom, but a boon. BOON, of retirement. Deliberate retirement. Retirement when we face down the emptiness of the loss of directed purpose, the loss of contrived purpose through work, and then decide, are we going to fall down into despair at no longer having a ready-made purpose, even though it was killing us, or are we going to climb up into the light and make our own purpose? Now, given the fact that I took that road a long time ago, in the road that led me to writing Going Alone, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I chose that road. And now, the sunlight is nice. Now, of course, I'm 61 as of today, so my Healthy Life Index says that I've got 5 more years before the onset of my first, about 5 more years before the onset of my first major life disease. So I'm going to make good use of these 5 good years. I'm going to make them as good as possible, and I'm going to make good use of them. You bet. Okay, let's go over the creed. The creed is in my book. It's the chapter titled The Good Life, where I lay out the 8 objectives that I've identified for my life and the 35 principles that I use to achieve those. Let's go over them in order. Number 1 is to be always ready to die. See, I told you I'd talk about death, my own death. So this means that I need to ask myself daily, am I today prepared to die? Well, to answer that question, I need to ask myself, 1, are my affairs in order? And they are. 2, are my relationships sound? Yes, they are. 3, is my life's work complete? It is. So yes, I'm ready to die today, should today be the day. The second objective is to make good and effective use of my time, to not let my days just filter through my fingers, but to be up early, 4 a.m., having by 6 a.m. already completed 2 hours of good activities. I've already done a long hike. Before 5 a.m. I had hiked into the mountains, deep into a gorge, had an adventure already. I've already done my first journal entry. I've already uploaded a video. I've already written in my journal. Get a lot done. I'm on my 3rd cup of green tea. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Those are indeed the 8 objectives and 35 principles that I'm referring to now. Number 4 is to hold on. 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to become someone who responds well to the challenges of the day, doesn't fly off the handle unduly, keeps my balance in equilibrium. 5 is to perform good actions relative to my creed. This means I'm accumulating throughout the day, piecemeal, large and small, of every sort, virtuous decisions that lead to virtuous actions, where virtue is defined as nothing more than life that seeks after the improvement of the well-being of thinking creatures. Now, I don't have to measure that necessarily. It's not like I have to, facilitate X quantity of virtue each day. It just simply means that my days are lived where the measure of virtue is. There's this Suzumibachi, Asian giant hornet, right there, buzzing through the trees. Sorry if I'm going to be distracted by something that's going to be the giant killer hornet. You can't see it. I'll turn the camera around. This is the bamboo forest in my backyard, and the hornets come up and they circle around through here. I just saw a big black one. Some of them are more black than orange. This was a more black than orange one. So you get what I mean about the virtue thing, right? More virtue than less. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, like I said before, with my sister-in-law and my father-in-law, and can't control their backseat driving, but I sure can control how I respond to it. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And number 8 is to keep my balance in both body and mind, so that if I can keep my balance, then I'm less likely to stumble and fall afoul of the roots and the stumbles and the brambles and the rocks that are in my way. Now, let's go over one principle. Opening the book, then, to the Good Life chapter. I do these in order, one after another. Yesterday's was, I need to get a, what do they call those? Bookmark, right? It was, the social principle. Today we're going to do the principle of family, which is really neat. If you saw my social media post this morning, coming down from the Satoyama, the farmland area above my house, above where I live here along the river, I came across a family at like 5:10 in the morning. Father, mother, and son out. They had a little garden plot in the community garden up there. They were out there hoeing. The father and the wife, the father and mother had their hoes out. They were hoeing the land, and the son was pulling weeds. It's Monday morning. They were doing it all before work and breakfast. Isn't that cool? So here's the principle of family. Sub-principle, catalyst. I'll circle back to that when I'm done. Let me read. There goes my clock. Sometimes it rings it always rings some random number of chimes at a weird time. Principle of family. Our people make up the context of our lives in terms of purpose, obligation, mission, feedback, support, and ultimately the best and almost intangible part of being alive. Oh, that's the one thing. Yes, it's so true. If I do say so myself. And I did. We begin with the people to whom we are born, the chance family which we gain by accident of birth. We grow then with the family we later decide, our friends and our partners and our spouse and the children we in turn together make. From these we gain our decided mission and our direction and our guidance forward, for better or worse, for richer or poor, in sickness and in health, till death or very good cause do us part. Without this connection and circumstance, we can still live a rich and meaningful life, though the way may be harder at times as we strive with less mandate, catalyst perhaps, to compel us through thick and thin, less necessity to push us out the door to our jobs on days when we'd rather not. And through many years and decades of hard work, sacrifice, and giving, the very selfless endeavors which yield virtue from the dawning chaos of our lives, rising and falling, and one day utterly failing. Well, that basically just summarizes everything I was talking about in the previous soliloquy about the suffering and the pain that 40 friggin' years of work. Does my emotion come through? It did cause, but yet it was to good ends, right? I mean, I was able to yield the raising of my daughter, the facilitation of security of my family, the years of stability that we had, and now the beginning of retirement, which would not have happened had I not chosen to live that life. So it is indeed at least in my paradigm, a necessary, if not evil, necessary pain and burden. And if, once dead, we've left behind the fact and echo of our virtuous living within the family we formed and supported and maintained, then our life will hardly have been lived in vain, even if everything is eventually one day in vain. All right, so the last thing I need to do now is to talk about the next 24 hours. So I have a mission. Every day, now that I'm retired, I can do what I want every day. And so I choose just one thing every day, and it can be anything I want. I usually try to pick something singular that seems to be more significant than, for example, refilling the kettle with water. So yesterday's thing was let me look, because I have the note, just to make sure I got it right. The flea market. So I was going to go to the flea market. So hardly a difficult endeavor. And we did. It was really productive. We got some really great stuff. Check out my haul here. See the table there? Look at all the things on the table there. Those are all the items that I got at the flea market. I'm going to list all of these. Got them at the flea market and the antique store. I'll be listing them over the course of this week. There's probably about more than a dozen really great items. So what am I going to do today? Well, we had a big storm come through earlier this week, just a few days ago. And there is a stream that runs beyond that yellow house over there, and it's been running there. It's in a channel. It's been running there for decades, probably for more than 50 years. It runs, and I know where it comes from. It comes from a valley about a half a kilometer up. During that rainstorm that came, that channel should have been filled with more water than usual. It should have been not overflowing, but really, really full. It stopped. Like almost down to a trickle. It's never stopped. So that got my attention. So this morning, since I was walking alone without the dogs, I kind of investigated. I went up a little bit, and I noticed it stopped all the way up to where it disappears into the wilderness. Now, the only thing I can think of, and this is where today's endeavor is that what must have happened is during the big storm, a landslide must have occurred further up in the valley. And what I'm concerned about now is that landslide caused a dam to form, and that all that water that's always coming is slowly accumulating behind that earthen dam. That could be a real dangerous thing, right? I mean, because eventually it's going to fill up, and what if it then spills over and a flood comes? And it would flood, it would literally go down that whole road there. It could really cause some significant damage, although there is a major place where it probably would overflow rather than come out. It would like come out into the street further up and then flow over into the river here. It still could be really bad depending on how big it is. Now, I might be wrong, but that water's going somewhere. That water's not gone. So what I'm going to do today is, after a breakfast and after I'm all cleaned up, and I'm going to give everybody time for all the workaday people to go to work, so I make sure there's no one around. I'm going to put on my boots. Can you see them down there? Can you see my boots down there? Yeah, they are. I'm going to put on my thick boots. I'm going to get on my full gear because it's going to be nasty up there. And I'm going to slog up into that canyon. Now, I'll take you guys along. Well, I won't take you on this video, but I'll add this to the Retiring in Japan daily upload. I'm going to find out what's going on up there. I'm going to see if there is indeed a landslide. And if there is, then with Yumiko's help, I will report that to the appropriate authorities, because it could be a real danger. Could be an immediate danger. So that's what I'm going to do. And with that, that's all I was going to do. Let's go over comments. Lots of comments. Hello, Roku Jones. Hey, Kurt. Why did you put bricks underneath your potted plants on the balcony? What's the purpose? Yeah, I did, didn't I? Well, I don't have an answer for you. I just did. Sorry. Hey, there's Robert. Good morning, Kurt. And hi, Robert says hi to Roku Jones. Elvira. My eyes are so bad. I really need my glasses. Hold on. There's little Rudy. Hey, Rudy. Elvira says, good morning, Kurt. Or good afternoon here. Kurt, I understand the backseat driving. We have lived in our neighborhood for 35 years, and my husband still gives me directions when we drive together anywhere. Isn't it it's frustrating, isn't it? Robert says hi to Elvira. Elvina, I'm sorry, I'm not saying it right. Penguin Red 651. Hi Kurt, recently found your channel. I retired at 58 and just turned 60. Do you find now in retirement that time has speeded up? Almost scarily so. This is my biggest surprise. Tim in the UK. I haven't noticed that. I've only been retired for 5 months and a week, but I'll be on the lookout for it. Thank you for sharing that. That's something I'm really enjoying, and I'm getting lots of cards and letters from people who are retired or about to retire, especially people that want to retire in Japan, telling me all kinds of useful information. So that's a new one. Time speeding up. I noticed the time sped up overall as I'm getting older, but is it appreciably so? Elvina says hello to Robert. Robert says hi to Penguin 651. Robert. It's a different Robert. Robert, believe in yourself is also Robert. Kurt, do you have any advice for people who are currently working and feeling those same feelings that you've mentioned? Would you work harder to save and retire early? That's an interesting question, and I'm afraid I haven't given it a lot of thought. I have thought about my daughter, who is 24 and just starting her career, and I basically told her, she started her career this last month in May, here in Japan after she graduated university, and I just told her, I said, they call it work for a reason. No, I don't know. I don't, offhand, I don't have any good advice, Robert, or my only answer in all of my career was just to swallow it and tough it out and hope, and because I thought I had no choice, right? I had chosen to have a child, so I thought that's my responsibility. I don't get much of a choice. Although I did try a couple of times when I was younger to start my own business, to change countries, change careers, and that always wound up causing my family harm. And so no, I don't have a good idea. Hopefully the AI will soon save us all, to liberate us all from and give us the free time to enjoy our lives. But until that happens, I don't have a good idea. Robert says hi to Penguin says hi to Robert. Now we've got two Roberts, so we've got Believe in Yourself and Robert. So I'll call, since we've got two, I'll call one Robert and the other Believe in Yourself. DT, hi DT, happy birthday! Thank you so much. And Robert says hi to Believe in Yourself. Says hi to DT. Believe in Yourself says Robert says Believe in Yourself says happy birthday to me. Thank you. Robert says hi to Robert. Believe in Yourself. Happy birthday from Penguin 651. Thank you. DT, hi, Believe in Yourself. Bag of Walnuts. Good morning to you. You mentioned trying not to L off the handle. Did you used to find yourself doing this? I don't know what that means. LY off the handle. If so, how did you bring yourself out in the moment? Question from an occasional flyer. Oh, fly off the handle. You're trying not to fly off the handle. How did you used to find yourself doing this? Okay, I did that by way of probably role modeling my father, who would fly off the handle by way of course. He would pin things up and fly off the handle. And I stopped flying off the handle when my wife, no, it was never really bad. It would be like suddenly I would just, and I haven't done it for a long time, like decades, since my mid 40s was when I stopped doing that, got in control. And what would happen was I would kind of, just like my father, I would have enough, and like one day I was like, well, gosh darn it, and like do this, pound the table a little bit. And I wasn't aggressive, and I didn't, I wasn't mean to anybody. I was just mostly just venting my emotions. In fact, that translated into a principle in my book called the principle of the Feast of Offal. The Feast of Offal is what I talk about, is when we let our emotions rise and we spew those emotions out around. Offal, of course, is the waste and byproduct of butchery, right? So it's imagine taking all the guts and the eyeballs and the fur and the hair and the membranes and the blood of a butcher's art that gets into a puddle, into a pool, and like throwing it all around and getting all on the people around us, and they get it in their mouth and it makes them sick. I likened what I used to do by flying off the handle to that. That's why I call it the Feast of Offal, and it actually got promoted as a principle of my Good Life Creed. So why I stopped doing it was my wife. Now, flying off the handle is not a Japanese thing. They don't do that. Japanese people internalize their pain, and they are loath to express it. They will, and I'm going to say something crude here. I don't know, maybe it's not crude, but it's insensitive. Japanese people might throw themselves in front of a train rather than take their problems to their family. You know what I mean? It's a tough road to hoe, but they don't do that. I stopped doing this, and in my family when I grew up, it was tolerated. It was all right to kind of spew out, right? At least that's how I was raised, because I saw my dad did it. He wasn't violent. He didn't hurt anybody. There goes another Asian giant. It's two. But it kind of relieved. And when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's what dad does. That's what dads do. So I did that. My wife kind of tolerated that, and I didn't do it a lot. It was just once in a while. She kind of tolerated that. She didn't like it. But then once our daughter got old enough to begin to internalize, to see what was happening, my wife sat me down and basically she was like, Kurt, you need to knock this off. Because we were living in Japan. Like I said, it's not a Japanese thing to do. She said in very few words, she said, you need to either deal with your problems, Kurt, or live with your problems on your own. Don't be spewing your emotions and issues at the dinner table in front of our daughter. And later I had talks with Emily, and Emily, we raised Emily in the Japanese paradigm, and that really did. Yumiko intervened at the right time. The few times that I did that in front of my daughter growing up really had a big influence on her. Now, it's been so long, and I took my wife, because one thing I know is that my wife is smart. She's wise. When she gives me advice, I better follow it. So that's what did it. I basically said, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to blow up. I'm going to learn to manage this stuff on my own, or I'm going to internalize it. I'm not going to throw myself in front of a train, but I'm going to do that. And that was then wound up being in the book, The Feast of Offal. In fact, let me go ahead and read it real quick, as long as we're at it, because it's germane to this really good question. Again, it's in the chapter titled The Good Life, and you don't need to buy this book to read this. You can go to goingalone.org, and you can read the book for free there. Hold on, let me find it. One second, please. Excuse me. There it is. The Feast of Offal. Okay. AKA the banquet of our suffering. And there's a quote from the Bible. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it till afterwards. That's Proverbs 29:11. Here it goes. The Feast of Offal. This strange meal consists of the waste and byproduct of unreasoned and unprincipled living, which we sometimes discard like filth where we live, think, and act. Every time we become confused, frustrated, upset, or angry, and we take pains to let all the world know, we are then spelling out our personal offal. Remember, offal is that waste and byproduct of butchery. So our personal offal onto the world, spreading the filth of our hot, raw emotions onto everyone within range of our upset. The curious thing is that so many then take up the filth we've flung at them to then consume it with seeming relish, making themselves immediately sick in the process and causing them to begin their own reciprocal feast of offal. So the point there being that when we do that, the others that get exposed to it wind up kind of getting infected in a way by our illness. They kind of, maybe there's kind of a vicarious, sense of watching someone else lose their cool, but then in a way we kind of get some of that in ourselves. That's like, the blood and the guts kind of seeping into our mouth. And thus it spreads from one to another. So then those people wind up, it furthers and contributes to their own feast of offal, which then they release and then spread to others and others and others. And thus it spreads from one to another throughout the waking day, and even at night while we dream our emotions into life. An awful banquet of filth, soiling deeply our peace and better living, poisoning our lives and the lives of everyone we know. I wish to cover my mouth and nose instead. So this is how I dealt with it. I wish to cover my mouth and nose instead, to filter out the foul excess of undisciplined thought and living, to temper my emotions and my careless consumption of the emotions of others. I will neither offer nor consume the feast. So that whole bit is a result of my wife's firm admonition to knock it off, that she wasn't going to put up with me being like that. It's only been a few times in life that she's done that, draw a line in the sand and tell me enough, and I'm glad she did. That's my answer to your question. Okay, so the next one is Robert says hi to Bag of Walnuts. Bag of Walnuts says hi to Believe in Yourself. Roku Jones. Kurt is very salty about his work history. Very, very salty. It's like, you know what it is? It's exactly like in Moby Dick, the grudge that Ahab has towards the white whale. My feeling towards work is exactly like that. It's like this under the surface. I hate the way that I spent my life. 40 years, friggin', you can see it's coming. It's hard for me to control myself. I hated my career, and I hated work, pretty much all the way through the whole friggin' damn thing. So yeah, I'm very salty about it. Vivian says, happy birthday, Kurt. Thank you. Robert says hi to Vivian. Vivian says hi to Robert. Greetings from Rio de Janeiro. Ooh, Rio. Robert says hi to Vivian and greetings from Ontario, Canada. Roku Jones. The bricks look nice under the flower pot. Some things you don't need a practical purpose to do things. Well, I guess one reason I kind of did it was to, give some elevation, right? I mean, if I didn't have the bricks, then like this plant would be, they would take up the space differently, right? So, and I can sit here in my chair and look down, and my plant is right there. And I can even reach down and, fiddle with it. Okay, I'm a Ray. Hey, Ray. Wabi Sabi, embrace the imperfections. Indeed. Robert says, Believe in Yourself says hi to Ray. Sam. Hi, Sam. Happy birthday, Kurt. Thank you. I appreciate it. Elvira. Avina. Sorry. I like my work, but I'd like AI to cook and clean my house for me. Robert says, Believe in Yourself says hi to Sam. Okoyama Ray says hi to Believe in Yourself. Aaron, hi Aaron, longtime friend of the channel. Hi Kurt, a question about life in Japan. I thought of after reading the novel Shogun in the book, they would address people who had earned the greatest respect as Sama instead of San. Yeah, Sama is, well, Sama, you encounter Sama all over the place. It would be kind of like, you see it in all, the most common place to see Sama is in the retail setting. The Japanese word for customer is ogaksan. So they say ogaksan is customer. But when someone in a store refers to the customer, like they're talking about a customer with someone else, or they're addressing the customer directly, they will say ogak-sama. So sama would be, it's like san to the next level. And so it's very respectful. And sama would also be, back in the old days, a samurai would refer to a daimyo as sama. Anyone above in the hierarchy would be sama. So if you want to be super polite, you would use sama, and it's still very active. You encounter it every day in Japan, in the work setting, in retail setting, even at home. You hear people talking about it. It's very, very common. Good, interesting question, Aaron. Is there anyone you would do that for, or is it a thing from the past? Oh, so that's more of your question. It's not a thing from. It is a thing from the past, but yes, absolutely. It's all the time, mostly in the occupations. I mean, in the work world, all the time. Ogak-sama, all the time. Nantoka-sama, Suzuki-sama, whatever it is. Yeah, definitely. Robert, I Believe in Yourself says hi to Aaron. Bag of Walnuts says, a wonderful answer. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate it. You're very welcome. Oh, by the way, Bag of Walnuts, you may be interested if you're reading Shogun or you're watching the miniseries. Where I live right here, this is where, because it's based on real events. So, for example, in the book or the movie, Toranaga, the daimyo, Toranaga, was actually Tokugawa, and this is Suruga. This is the realm of the Tokugawa shogun, and so it was that shogun actually has his castle, or had his castle, about 5 miles, maybe 7 kilometers that way, maybe less, maybe like 3 or 4 miles less. And the place where all that happened in the book is literally across the water. You can actually go. They have a replica of the well, that's the black ships. But anyway, it all happened here. This is the location where that book took place, in historical events. And Aaron says hi to BIY. Oh, there we go. That's it. I've made it through all the comments. This was a long one today. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I wish you all the best. Again, you can read my book, Going Alone, for free at goingalone.org. Also, if you're on Patreon, even a free member on Patreon, you can access all 6 of my books for free as PDFs. So you don't have to pay. You can just join for free, and then you have access. Thanks, Robert. It's good to see you, or so to speak. I wish everybody the best, and I'll check out my Retiring in Japan upload tomorrow for today, to see if you want to join me on the exploration to see what I'm going to find up there, if there really is a dangerous dam forming up there and the potential for a flood. I'm going to do that this morning. Take care, everybody. Be safe, but not too safe. Oh, and we'll see you on next week on 2.5 Oyachis too. Yeah, it's actually the week after next, I think, right? Okay. Take care. Maybe this next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, Robert.